Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Outer Rim Cantina. My name is Alan and today I'm here to talk about the brand new article and pictures released last week by Vanity Fair detailing some of the making of the Rise of Skywalker, and specifically some of the scenes shot in the Outer Rim Desert, which will become the planet of Pisana in Episode 9. Along with behind-the-scenes shots of the filmmakers and actors preparing for a shoot, the article also gave us insight into not only the Rise of Skywalker, but also the sequel trilogy as a whole and the vision behind it. I've pulled some paragraphs from the article that stuck out most to me, so I'll read them to you guys here and talk about why I think they're important. And you guys can see the brand new images released. I will have them floating on the screen beside me throughout the video. But the more interesting thing about The Force Awakens and its successor, The Last Jedi, written and directed by Rian Johnson, was how they subtly complicated Lucas's vision. 30 years have gone by since the ending of Return of the Jedi, during which time the newly reborn Republic has become complacent and politically stagnant, allowing the rise of the reactionary Neo-Imperial First Order. Those origins we will learn more about in The Rise of Skywalker. Quote, "It was almost like if the Argentine Nazis had sort of got together and actually started to bring this thing back in some real form," Abrams says. Just like that, the rules of the Star Wars universe changed. It wasn't all over when the Ewoks sang. Obi-Wan Kenobi and all those Bothans had died in vain. Even Han and Leia had split up. It's a little less of a fairy tale now. The feather-haired godling Luke suffered the trauma of having a Padawan go bad on his watch. It's an echo of what happened to his old master, Obi-Wan, with Anakin Skywalker, who became Darth Vader. But where Obi-Wan made peace with it, waiting serenely in the desert of Tatooine for the next chosen one to arrive, Luke's guilt curdled into shame. He hid himself away so that his chosen one, Rey, had to spend most of The Force Awakens searching for him, and then another whole movie convincing him, with the help of Yoda's Force Ghost, to keep the Jedi Order going at all. Star Wars arrived as an antidote to the disillusionment of the 1970s, but now in its middle age, Star Wars is grappling with disillusionment of its own. So this stuck out to me mainly because of the first paragraph. The sequel trilogy isn't the same fairy tale that the old Legends expanded universe was. Star Wars has always been a reflection of the times, and it's no different today. Instead of making Luke the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, they chose to make him flawed and human. Yes, Luke still has his incredible power, but instead of using this as his main characteristic, they chose to create a Luke that was flawed, and one that couldn't handle the mounting pressures around him. After he'd spent all those years rebuilding the Jedi Order, and finally having the galaxy be at peace, that was all torn apart by Snoke taking hold of the young Ben Solo and pitting him against his uncle. That pain and loss of not only everything you had worked so hard for, but also the loss of family, is one that no single person can handle alone, not even Luke Skywalker. And then he had been forging this maybe bond with Rey, Driver says, and it kind of ends with a question in the air. Is he going to pursue that relationship, or when the door of her ship goes up, does that also close the camaraderie that they were maybe forming? If Kylo Ren can't be redeemed, it will almost certainly fall to Rey to put him down, in spite of their maybe bond. Their relationship is the closest thing the new trilogy has to a star-crossed love story on the order of Han and Leia. A source close to the movie says that their Force connection will turn out to run even deeper than we thought. They're uniquely suited to understand each other, but at the same time they are in every way each other's inverse, down to Kylo's perverse rejection of his family, which is the one thing Rey craves most. Quote, "I think there's a part of Rey that's like, dude, you fucking had it all. You had it all," Ridley says. That was always a big question during filming. You had it all, and you let it go. The quotes from Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley really paint the picture of, yes, Reylo is canon in one way or another. Whether you like it or not, you're getting it straight from the source that Rey and Kylo are connected in some sort of way. Now, whether that turns into some kind of romantic bond, or something even deeper than that through their Force connection, we'll just have to find out. How things turn out for the pair will also be determined by Ben's willingness or ability to be redeemed, which I personally think will happen. The bond and connection that was formed in Episode 7 and expanded upon further in 8 will finally come to light in 9, and we may finally know how things are going to turn out for the both of them. Presumably whatever's eating at Kylo started in his childhood. Maybe being the kid of literally the two coolest people in the galaxy isn't as fun as it sounds. Driver, who obviously thought this through with a lot of rigor, points out that, as cool as they are, Han and Leia are both obsessively committed to lifestyles, smuggling, and rebelling that don't leave much room for kids. He also pointed out that, unlike Luke and Rey, Kylo never got to go on a nifty voyage of self-discovery. Instead, he grew up under the crushing pressure of massive expectations. Quote, "How do you form friendships out of that?" Driver says. "How do you understand the weight of that? And if there's no one around you guiding you, or articulating things the right way, it can easily go awry." By the emotional logic that governs the Star Wars universe, and also our own, Kylo Ren is going to have to confront the past and his fears, whatever they are, or be destroyed by them. This is really one of the best descriptions of Kylo's mentality and character arc throughout the sequel trilogy, and it's coming straight from Adam Driver himself. Without his parents present there to guide him along the right path, there's really no way to grow as a person or be steered in the right direction. Han and Leia literally sent their only child away with Luke to a far-off corner of the galaxy because they knew that they weren't good parents for him, and thought Luke could do a better job. Unfortunately, Ben didn't need a Jedi Master as much as he needed his parents there with him to guide him along his way as he discovered who he was. And that's how Kylo Ren was born. "I think there is an expectation that Disney has," Kennedy says. "On the other hand, though, I think that Disney is very respectful of what this is, and right from the beginning we talked about the fragility of this form of storytelling, because it's something that means so much to fans that you can't turn this into some kind of factory approach. You can't even do what Marvel does, necessarily, where you pick characters and build new franchises around those characters. This needs to evolve differently." One of the things I hate most about people that constantly scream and cry about the sequel trilogy is that one of their main arguments is that Disney is just using Star Wars as a money generator and doesn't actually care about the franchise or fans. This is just wrong. You'd be hard-pressed to find an interview where Kathleen Kennedy didn't bring up the fact that everyone that works on the Star Wars films and other media beyond that truly cares about what they're doing and knows the weight and responsibility they have on their shoulders. Yes, Disney is trying to make money, that is what companies do, but they're not going to just ruin Star Wars so they can make a few extra bucks. When people talk about the new Star Wars movies, they tend to talk about how faithful they are to the originals. What's harder to say is how exactly the new films are different. How movies like Skywalker keep their connection to the past, while at the same time finding a way to belong in the world of 2019. Because regardless of whether or not Star Wars has changed since 1977, the world around it has, profoundly. Quote, "There's a loss of innocence. A sense of innocence that existed in the 70s that I don't think to any extent exists today," Kennedy says. "I think that has to permeate the storytelling and the reaction to the stories and how they're set up. It has to feel differently because we're different. We know things, as a people and as an audience, that we didn't know back then. For example, back then it felt sort of okay to like Darth Vader, because even though he was evil, he was also incredibly cool, and the kind of fascism he represented felt like a boogeyman from the distant past. But now fascism is rising again, which makes the whole First Order subplot look super prescient. But it also reminds us that fascism is not even slightly cool in real life. Quote, "Evil needs to feel and look very real," Kennedy says. And what that means today may not be as black and white as it might have been in 1977, coming off of a kind of World War II sensibility. In the Star Wars verse, dark and light are supposed to balance each other out. But in the real world, they just mix together into a hopelessly foggy, morally ambiguous gray. Another major complaint I've seen online about the sequel trilogy has been that Star Wars has changed, and isn't the same as it was when the originals or even the prequels were made. Well, no, of course it's not going to be the same. Star Wars has always been a commentary about the times. The same society that existed in the 70s and 80s when Star Wars first became popular doesn't exist in the same way in 2019. Star Wars has always been one of those things that is capable of changing with the times, while remaining faithful to its history, and I don't see that slipping away anytime soon. So those were the things that stuck out to me most in the Vanity Fair article. I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. There's some very interesting things in there, but of course I didn't have time in this video to cover all of it, or it would be like an hour long. But tell me what you guys think of the Vanity Fair article as a whole, or just the parts that I showcased here down in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and tell me what you think of these brand new images that have been going by throughout the video, because they're really, really cool, and this article just got me even more hype for the Rise of Skywalker, and I cannot wait until December so we finally get to see it, and finally see how this 42-year journey ends, and it's going to be something absolutely amazing. But that is all the time I have for this video. I will see you guys back here in the cantina on Thursday for another Star Wars video. Until then, may the Force be with you.